And now it's time for a special programme taking a closer look at the visit to Canada by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
Just 2 months after their wedding that captivated the world, Kate and William, the new Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, arrived in Canada. They came not just as newlyweds on their first official visit overseas, but as a couple who will one day be king and queen of this country. As soon as they'd landed in Ottawa, they set to work enchanting thousands of people who'd waited hours to see them. The first duty was a sombre one, as they paid their respects to Canada's war dead at the National War Memorial in the city. William laid a wreath and Kate a posy of flowers at the grave of the unknown soldier. Then the moment so many had been waiting for, a chance to meet and chat to the young couple. Kate on one side, William on the other. They looked relaxed and at ease as they took their time talking to people who will one day be their subjects.
Oh, my heart stopped a beat. I was so excited. I was jumping, I was screaming. Love them.
Because they're newlyweds too, they're their new thing now, so I wanted to get a little glimpse at them while they're still cool.
I got a little glimpse. It was good. Nice dress, nice guy, he's got a nice suit on.
From there, they were taken to the home of the Queen's Canadian representative, the Governor-General. The swirl of the bagpipes marked the start of their official welcome. William told the crowd, both in English and French, how pleased he and his new wife were to be in Canada.
Accompagné par la grande famille canadienne. It will improve as we go on.
Day 2, and showing no sign of jet lag, William and Kate arrived at the annual Canada Day celebrations in a horse-drawn carriage. Once again, the crowds were large and the welcome was enthusiastic. As the Governor-General spoke, he found himself competing with the crowd shouting for Will and Kate. They didn't have to wait long. Kate was dressed in Canada's colours, wearing the diamond maple leaf brooch the Queen had worn on her first visit to Canada in 1951. On stage, the Prime Minister congratulated them on their marriage, and the crowd kept on cheering. Then it was time for William to try out his French once again.
Bonjour Ottawa, bonjour Canada, bonne fête Canada.
He told the crowd how pleased he was to be back in Canada and said the couple were thrilled at the prospect of 8 more days in the country. The festivities carried on all day. A crowd of around 300,000 people were treated to a spectacular flypast. And the young couple were given a rock star's welcome as Canada celebrated its 144th birthday with a concert by performers from across the country. The night ended with a spectacular fireworks display. On the day that would have been the 50th birthday of his mother, Diana, Prince William and his bride once again showed how royalty does have the ability to reach out to many people.
The message is clear. William, clear off. Or in French, dégage.
After 2 days of being greeted like Hollywood stars, Kate and William had a very different but not unexpected reception in the French-speaking city of Montreal. It was a small but very noisy demonstration by a group of anti-monarchists who want Quebec to be an independent state. The protesters were vocal, but so too were the many more people who'd come to welcome the newest member of the Canadian royal family and her husband. Away from the cheers and boos, Kate and William spent 2 hours at the Sainte Justine Hospital, meeting and talking to some of the children being treated in the cancer unit, who later said how caring the prince and his bride had both been. Then it was on to lighter matters. Montreal, with its French past, is known for its cuisine, so a visit to a cooking school was on the agenda. The royal couple rolled up their sleeves and got stuck in. The couple were shown various techniques which could come in handy at home, particularly as royals who don't yet have their own staff. Kate's food seemed to go down particularly well with the chefs. The dishes were then presented to the waiting press for approval. On Sunday morning, they arrived in Quebec City aboard a Royal Canadian Navy frigate. This is the heart of French-speaking Canada, and a church service on deck with hymns in French proved a little tricky at times. There was very heavy security in the centre of the city. Some anti-monarchist protesters in the main square were challenged by police and escorted away. Those who resisted were arrested. In the end, a group of several hundred demonstrators were allowed to protest some distance away. But when William and Kate arrived at the City Hall, they were given a very warm welcome by the waiting crowd. And once again, Prince William addressed them all in French.
Merci de votre patience avec mon accent.
Thank you for your patience with my accent, he said, telling the crowd he hoped they'd get to know each other over the years to come. Their next stop was a refuge in the city called Maison Dauphine. It was set up by a priest 20 years ago and looks after some of the most underprivileged young people in Quebec City, taking in children as young as 12. William and Kate listened to stories of lives worlds away from their own, tales of domestic abuse, drug problems and living on the streets. Thousands of young people have been helped here, and some of them entertained the royal couple with skills they'd learnt along the way. Once again, William and Kate both looked relaxed, chatting away at ease in their own informal way. This city has not been an easy destination for royals in the past, but the newlyweds seemed to pull it off effortlessly. Prince William even tried his hand at table football and seemed to be a natural at that too.
Oh, yes.
From Quebec, they flew 500 miles to the Atlantic coast, arriving on Prince Edward Island. Here there were no demonstrators, just a rapturous welcome. The people who live on this island, named after Queen Victoria's father, don't get royal visits very often, and they turned out in their thousands to see the Duke and Duchess carried once again through the streets in a horse-drawn landau, bringing back memories of their wedding. The crowd who waited hours to catch a glimpse couldn't get enough of them. William and Kate seemed rather excited to be there too. As they climbed out of the carriage for a walkabout, they were greeted by scores of outstretched hands. And Kate once again showed just how comfortable she is with children, and then her husband joined in as well. These images beamed around the world, sparking plenty of speculation about the prospect of new royal blood. As he welcomed them, the island's premier gave William some valuable advice.
To conclude, having been married now for 5 glorious years to my beautiful wife, Kate, I have one advice for the Duke of Cambridge. This wisdom has helped me a lot over the last 5 years. Your Royal Highness, it's very important to remember that Kates are always right.
Diplomatically, William nodded in agreement. With this island on the Atlantic coast, the weather was rather reminiscent of home, raining and blustery. But it proved a good moment for Flight Lieutenant William Wales of the RAF Search and Rescue Service to try out some new flying skills. The Canadians have a special technique for search and rescue. In emergencies, they will land the helicopter on the water. Kate seemed keen to find out all about it, particularly as her husband had never tried it before. Judging by the number of times he repeated the exercise, he was clearly enjoying himself and told one of the instructors that the boys back at his squadron would be absolutely jealous. Then it was Kate's turn to take to the water, joining William for a dragon boat race. These two are well known for their competitive streak, and their rivalry was evident as soon as they set off. Kate has raced in dragon boats before, but never against her husband, and she looked determined to give it her all. There was a furious dash for the finishing line, but the Duke's boat won by just a hair. William went on to console his wife with a hug, but Kate looked like she'd prefer to push him in. As the prince was presented with the winner's champagne,
No chivalry, no chivalry.
no chivalry, he declared. Then a reminder of some of the island's older traditions, as the royal couple were welcomed by First Nation people with a traditional Mi'kmaq smudging ceremony. The smoke from sage leaves burning in a bowl is supposed to cleanse the spirit. Kate was told to cup her hands to draw the pungent smoke towards her. The Mi'kmaq are the indigenous people of eastern Canada, and the elder took time to chat to the couple, explaining the tradition before it was William's turn to breathe in the smoke. His wife looked on in amusement. Next stop was the Northwest Territories for a glimpse of another way of Canadian life. Half of the population here are Aborigines and 11 languages are spoken. Prince William tried his hand at a few.
We are so excited to be here. Merci Joe. Hey, ya, loco. Merci à tous. Thank you very much.
This is a vast area with just 40,000 or so inhabitants, and rather a lot of them had turned out to see the royal celebrities.
I've got my mosquito net on, I've come prepared, and I haven't drank anything for 3 days. There's no bathrooms here.
It's nice to see them personally, and I'm in here in Yellowknife, so I'm just lucky.
And we're up in the north. Who would have ever thought they would have come up here for us? So how exciting is this? This is great.
The couple's next challenge was to take part in the country's favourite sport, hockey, in a street game with some local children in Yellowknife. And the Duke was given a chance to score. Perhaps it was the suit that meant the polo-playing prince didn't get close to hitting the back of the net, though he was determined to try. Then it was his wife's turn. A good hockey player at school, Kate laughed as she ignored shouts for her to give it a go and opted rather sensibly to start the game off instead. Later, they took a 20-minute flight to Blatchford Lake, one of the thousands in this vast area near the Arctic Circle. The couple were taken to an island with an education centre for young Aboriginal people, where they're taught about northern culture and some of the traditional skills. They call it a bush university. Kate and William were shown many of the techniques students learn, including drying animal hides to make clothing. This is a land where darkness never really falls at this time of the year, giving the couple plenty of time to explore. The prince had asked for some time away from the crowds and the cameras. They even left their police protection behind as they set off with just one guide for 3 hours of much-needed privacy after so many days in the spotlight. The next day, on what was supposed to be a day off for the couple, the Duke and Duchess turned up in the town of Slave Lake in Alberta. 2 months ago, this town was overwhelmed by wildfires. 400 homes were destroyed by the flames in May. The whole town had to be evacuated, 7,000 people. Kate and William then met the people of Slave Lake, who'd only just been told about this impromptu visit.
Oh, it was just the thrill of a lifetime.
Have you seen any of the royals before?
He's my 4th generation of seeing them.
Kate and William had asked to come here specifically. Their effect on the crowds was clear. The couple spent 2 hours talking to some of the residents who'd been through a traumatic few weeks, and they listened intently to people who wanted to share their stories with them. This is the first time Kate has publicly come face to face with such a disaster. Her husband has before, most recently during a visit to New Zealand after the earthquake in Christchurch. Wearing the white 10-gallon hats they were given. They were there for the Calgary Stampede, known as the greatest outdoor show on earth. It's an old-fashioned rodeo, and the couple were shown plenty of its attractions. They watched some of the youngest competitors from the show, 3- and 4-year-olds, mutton busting, trying to stay on sheep not much smaller than them. But it's the bucking bulls who are the highlight of the event, and the couple watched in awe. Then a chance for William to thank the Canadians and Canada to thank the Duke and Duchess.
A week ago in Ottawa, I spoke of how much Catherine and I look forward to getting to know Canada and Canadians. I can only say that the experience of this past 7 days has exceeded all our expectations. We have been hugely struck by the diversity of this beautiful country, from Ottawa to Quebec, from Prince Edward Island to the Northwest Territories, and now the excitement of Calgary. And what about these fantastic white hats? In 1939, my great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, said of her first tour of Canada with her husband, King George VI, "Canada made us." Catherine and I now know very well what she meant. Canada has far surpassed all that we were promised. Our promise to Canada is that we shall return. Thank you.
Thank you especially for helping us celebrate Canada Day on Parliament Hill. I have to say we haven't seen a love-in like that since the first visit of the Beatles. Indeed, everywhere you went, you left a trail of utterly charmed Canadians in your wake.
We would be absolutely honored if the two would officially together open the 2011 Stampede and the greatest parade in the world. Your Highness.
The couple opened the main event, the parade, too, as with nearly everywhere else on the tour, rock star-like adulation from the crowds. Cowboys, First Nation Canadians, chuck wagons, marching bands and Mounties featured in the lineup which snaked its way through the city. The tour finished as it began, with a wreath-laying ceremony for Canada's war dead and then a 21-gun salute. This royal tour of Canada has blossomed into something of a love affair, a royal crush as one of Canada's newspapers called it. This was Kate and William's first official visit overseas as a married couple, and expectations had been very high. But even the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge must have been surprised by the extraordinary warm welcome that Canadians have given their future King and Queen. And so they bid farewell to Canada as they left for the final leg of their tour, Los Angeles, home to Hollywood, where these new royal stars will now undoubtedly feel very much at home.